Hello there, welcome to Turk Talks. Do you know what my favorite Disney movie is of all time? That's right, it's Treasure Planet. Let's get into this. So, Treasure Planet, what do we know about it? Well, it is a 2002 Disney animated feature, a big ol' hybrid between 2D and 3D animation. In fact, the characters were mostly 2D, except for a couple of them which were actually entirely 3D rendered, and the backgrounds were pretty much all 3D. It was an interesting point in Disney history where a certain CEO by the name of Micheal Eisner was trying to push the company in a different direction, and that direction was 3D animation, a la Pixar and DreamWorks at the time. Obviously, Disney had an agreement with Pixar at the time, but they didn't outright own Pixar just yet. And Micheal Eisner was kind of about to ruin that. Subscribe if you want to do a video on that at some point in the future, but if you really want to learn more now, highly recommend Yesterworld and Defunctland. Those channels cover a lot of Micheal Eisner's triumphs and blunders. So yeah, go check them out, they're great. So, Treasure Planet. Why is it my favorite movie? Well, themes, you know, some of us have mommy issues, others of us have daddy issues. I'm one of the latter.
Are you the boy's father?
Oh,
what? No.
Good heavens, no.
Not you. He's just an old friend of the family.
And movie means a lot to people like me because it's about a fatherly relationship that a kid has, and that's one big reason why I love it. Long John Silver, or just John Silver in this iteration. He's a cyborg, and that's also pretty cool, having a cyborg character. The coolest songs written for a movie, in my opinion. I mean, that's not entirely true. It's one of the coolest, but it's not the coolest. I'm Still Here by John Resnick of the Goo Goo Dolls. Forgive me, John, if I mispronounce your name. Pretty sure it's Resnick. I'll look it up later. Yeah, that song meant a lot to me. I remember as a kid rewatching the music video that came along with the DVD version of the movie. But not only that, it's a swashbuckling adventure. I mean, you got Jim Hawkins. The very first scene of the movie is this 15-year-old kid just like absolutely loving life in the clouds. Like, he's literally on his little solar surfer thing. It's like a surfboard, but with like a solar sail attached to it. And he's just like doing flips and tricks in the clouds. And like that first scene, you have to remember as a 6-year-old sitting in a theater, seeing that scene for the first time, it just blew my mind. So many amazing visuals in this movie too, like when the star goes supernova and they have to escape it, you know, which is something out of Star Trek where they kind of like ride the wave of the explosion from the supernova to escape it. It's some really cool stuff and some really cool visuals and a solid story because it's based off of Treasure Island, which was also one of my favorites as a kid. I went through a big pirate phase, and Treasure Island is definitely a very piratey story. Not to mention I was also in Treasure Island in the play when I was 11 years old. We're not gonna talk about that on this channel, just letting you know. I just absolutely loved the movie because of its stunning visuals, its great characters, and it's really good writing. Yeah, I know Nostalgia Critic wrote a scathing review of it, but he's wrong. I'm just gonna say it. In my opinion, he's wrong. Hello there, post-production Turk here, giving a couple of updates since I recorded that video. First of all, I have a tattoo now that is very relevant to this particular video. Second of all, Nostalgia Critic actually did a revisit of his Treasure Planet review, and he gave the movie a second shot, and he actually had some pretty glowing things to say about it. So thank you, Nostalgia Critic, for kind of revisiting that. I really appreciate it because more people need to know about this movie and how great it is, truly. That goes for a lot of early 2000s Disney. Anyway, lastly, the artist that I mentioned in the video that I actually got a chance to talk to, his name is Brian Ferguson, and I actually did get to do an interview with him, and he will be appearing in a video about the Disney eras later on this year. So stay tuned for that. Let's get back to the video now. Another reason why I love Treasure Planet, for one, it's historic cyberpunk. I mean, technically, historic cyberpunk. I really want to get into it, but it's a lot more Victorian than standard cyberpunk, like Cyberpunk 2077 or whatever that video game is. It's not a dystopian future. It's like Victorian ships with lasers in space. Yes. Anyway, so I love that aesthetic of the idea of old tech mixed with new tech and old ideas. It's just a pretty cool aesthetic, and I know it's not everyone's favorite aesthetic. A lot of people have issues with it for various reasons, but I love it. It's pretty cool. So the movie is a classic. And oftentimes when I talk to people about forgotten Disney movies, you know, like Cauldron, Treasure Planet gets brought up as a forgotten favorite. Like when I was in college, every person I talked to about it was like, oh yeah, that movie. That movie's great. What happened to it? Why can't I get it on Blu-ray? I don't know if I can find it anymore. Is it on YouTube? Is it on Disney Plus? I don't know. It is on Disney Plus, which is great because more people can see it now. Before Disney Plus came out, it was actually hard to get. I found that a lot of people actually liked the movie because it resonated with them in some way. You know, you've got Jim Hawkins, a young rebel kind of character whose dad just straight up left, and a lot of people have had broken families like that, and so it makes it relatable. Along comes this adventure to find the treasure planet, not just the treasure island, but the whole planet. It's got a bunch of Flint's treasure on it. And he's got this little like 3D map looking thing. It's like a sphere, and he's the only one who knows how to open it. It's pretty cool stuff. And this adventure comes along, and he meets a father figure, one that he hasn't had since he was a very young child. And there's something endearing about that. But spoiler alert, John Silver's the bad guy. For those of you who've never read or watched any iteration of Treasure Island, John Silver's the bad guy. But he's also kind of an anti-hero. There's a lot to talk about with this character anyway. But, so it kind of resonates with people. There's a lot to get out of that. Why was it forgotten? Well, this was 2002, which was the experimental era of Disney. And I'm not talking about the Renaissance era, I'm talking about the post-Renaissance era. If you don't know what the Renaissance era is, subscribe, because we're definitely going to talk about the Renaissance era of Disney movies. In the experimental era, you have movies like Atlantis, Lilo and Stitch, and Treasure Planet, which are all fantastic movies that are highly underrated. Why? Because they weren't marketed correctly. Because Micheal Eisner, again, was trying to push the company away from 2D animation and into 3D animation. So they let the movie flop. I know this because I actually met one of the people who worked on the movie, and he remembers when Micheal Eisner came in front of everybody and said, it didn't do on the box office. You know, we're basically gonna be dialing back on Disney animation for the time being. You know, and then we got Home on the Range. I really don't want to talk about that movie. But then, of course, we got Princess Tiana, you know, Princess and the Frog. An amazing 2D animated film, and it was one of the last until they came out with Winnie the Pooh, The Adventures of Winnie the Pooh or whatever, a few years after that. But in the experimental era, people were really taking stories to their limits, like with Lilo and Stitch. You've got a little girl befriending an alien in a retelling of The Ugly Duckling. I mean, they literally reference the Ugly Duckling in the movie. You have this really great story about, you know, family. Ohana means family. Nobody gets left behind or forgotten. This I can do Stitch's voice, but we'll talk about it later. I don't know. You kick off the experimental era of Disney movies, Disney animated movies, with Atlantis, which was the first Disney movie where it wasn't actually a musical. And the Disney artists kind of struggled a little bit with that idea because they didn't know how to animate the action sequences properly. until the director or somebody told them that it was like they were doing a musical number, but instead of a musical number, it was an action sequence. And that's what makes that movie awesome, is the action sequences are so well choreographed. However, Atlantis did okay, but it was the beginning of the ends of Disney 2D animation as we know it, because it didn't do great at the box office, because Atlantis came out in 2000. Just put it there. 2000 something. That movie kind of kicked off experimental era, but it didn't make enough money to continue justifying these movies, and Disney looked to other areas to make money, and then we got Tangled eventually, which became the new Renaissance, a new age, whatever the current era is called, we're in it. Neo-Renaissance, I don't know. Treasure Planet, as a result, kind of got lost. The same with Atlantis. It just kind of got lost in the ether, no pun intended, because in the movie, they actually have a breathable atmosphere in space. It's called an etherium, fun fact. But it is interesting to me that in all the Disney parks that I've been to, I actually was able to find one reference to Treasure Planet, and it's in California Adventure. There's also, near it, a reference to Atlantis. So for those of you who can afford to live in California or come out to California, you can visit the Art of Animation section in the Hollywood section of DCA, Disney's California Adventure. And you can find the Treasure Planet reference on a wall there. Yeah, it's, for those of you who know what it is, you'll see it. So I love this movie. It is very near and dear to my heart, and it's just an incredible work of art. Like I said, I actually met an animator who worked on it, and I got to express my love for this movie with that man, and I am forever grateful for that experience. So it's a really good movie. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. And again, it's just a wild ride. So hopefully you've enjoyed a little bit of history, a little bit of just kind of talking about one of my favorite movies. I'm sure we'll make another video on it in the future, so subscribe if you want to see that. Let me know what you think down in the comments section, and don't forget to smash that like button. And again, thanks for watching, and as always, you got the makings of greatness in you.